All right, I'm going to talk about basically the benefits of social ventures over nonprofits. And basically, I believe that there really is a need for the nonprofit model as it was originally conceived. And I have, to give a little background, I've been involved in nonprofits. I have a master's in nonprofit administration and management, and I've seen the inside and outs of them. I worked as a development director or strategic development director for a company called NCDS, National Community Development Services, Inc. So if you go to ncdsinc.net, you can actually see their profile. But the climate has changed, okay, in the sense that in the past, to give you some history, really, we didn't have a collaborative framework for giving, and all these organizations required considerable effort to find individuals and run these basically traditional marketing campaigns to solicit funds. Now, because of the lack of transparency, laws were set up to create the nonprofit. However, now with cloud computing and basically what's known as the synaptic web happening, semantic web happening, not synaptic, that's the brain. Everything is going online, right? So the opportunity for transparency has never been as strong as it is now. And really, after what we've seen with big banking, with Enron, with all this derivative bullshit and this constant greed and constant just shafting over the middle class workers, and we need a change. We need to change the way we set up corporations, and we need to change the way they're run. So I'm pioneering that, and you've probably heard the word of a social venture, and social venture is a pretty generic term, but a social venture found-up is a social venture that is a for-profit entity that basically operates in a very open manner to provide certain checks and balances to ensure that there isn't abuse. Now you may say, well, isn't the whole purpose of a nonprofit to get tax deductions as an individual? Yes and no. If you are making enough money and you need to get rid of it, I mean, usually then, yeah, you could give. Now, there's, but in essence, most people give is they would care less. I mean, it's kind of like it wouldn't make a difference. The same goes for corporations. I mean, corporations really don't care if it's a tax deduction, because they don't give enough for it to really make an impact on their taxes, or if it's or if it's a marketing expense. Marketing expense is just as a tax deductible as a friggin' contribution, right? It's the same. I mean, under the accounting principles, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the same thing. So, no longer really is tax deductible. And the thing is, too, you have to keep in mind the new power of helping causes and organizations is no longer the big gift for the, it's crowd, and there's a great talk about collaboration versus institution on TED. So just type TED.com collaboration institution, and you'll see a talk, and it talks about the 80-20 and everything else. And that was the old institution model, 80-20, which meant that basically 20% raises 80% of the funds, everything is 80-20. Well, that's not true anymore with the whole collaboration with crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. And in reality, if you, and what I tell people, this is what I tell people, how you should be, making contributions to organizations. One is, I believe that, everyone should basically contribute 1% of your gross income. Now, 1% of $100,000 is what? It's $1,000, isn't it? $1,000 tax deduction, is that really going to really impact your taxes that much? Probably not. I mean, in reality. Now, if you break that down even further and divide that by 10, now you have a 0.1%. And if you gave that 0.1% throughout the year, okay, to 10 organizations or more, maybe you want to give 2%, maybe you want to give 5%. Doesn't matter. I mean, I think 1% is a fair number. And if you do that over a year, and maybe you say, you don't want to give everything to the first event or the first Haiti event or the Japan or whatever. But if you can spread that out, then, and also what's very key is use your social networks, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and spend the week getting to know the organization. And maybe just, what they're working on, what they're doing, and every time remind them that I gave. If you spent a minute a day for a week, that's 7 minutes in a week, just doing that, one quick Twitter, or you could do like Hootsuite and pre-log these things up there, then, you could have a significant impact on, on organizations, because ultimately what you end up doing is leveraging your, $25 significantly. So, there's a police guy there. And, you could leverage, and it depends on how aggressive you are, you could leverage it. And this is what's crowdsourcing, right? This is a new phenomenon of crowdsourcing. That $25 investment could become, depending how extensive your network is, could turn into basically $250 or maybe $2,500, right? For that organization, depending on how commitment. So if you just buy into that organization for that 1 week and just put a post-it note and say, I'm going to give to that, you're going to have your investment is going to be so much more. Because, see, you have to understand, people, for the most part, are followers. So if, as an organization, you can find those, leaders, right? Those early adapters and leaders, and encourage them to participate, and to be involved, then you're basically building a very strong base of support. So as a social venture, let's go back to that. So I've talked about that. How can we do that? Well, first off, as I've talked in another thing, one of the problems with nonprofits is even if you leave your organization in a nonprofit, there's no guarantees that it's going to stay the way you designed it, because ultimately the articles can be adjusted and changed. Now, something that a nonprofit can't be, and something that I've been researching, and and I know quite a few of them are employee-owned companies. There's no, since a nonprofit can't be owned, right? Because it doesn't have equity or shares, it can't offer this model. Now, I want you to think about this. If you have an employee-owned company, right, and then you basically, every one of those individuals has a voting right in establishing their board of directors, in establishing fees and schedules and everything else in that organization, right? And all of a sudden, that becomes a very tremendous, incentive for control. And I don't know how many I don't know, for example, if Enron could have operated, and abused itself as an employee-owned company. Whenever you have secrets, whenever you have a few people making decisions for the whole, the risk and chance of, abuse is significantly heightened. So by running things as an employee-owned company, ultimately, what you're doing is helping to create transparency. Because by law, every person in that company is an owner of that company. Second thing, what you can do is articles and such can be very weak, right? Can be attacked. And one way is something that I'm developing is called really the Social Venture Charter. The Social Venture Charter is basically articles of incorporation. The Social Venture Article of Incorporation that we added to the articles, because the articles are very hard to change, which states the specific mandates of a social venture. Now, in this article, to change this article would require, a 75% majority vote of the employees. What that means is it's practically impossible, because I don't know if you've ever, to even get a 75% vote of Congress, or to make. How many times has the articles of our Constitution changed? I can't think of any. Maybe it has, but they've made attempts, but it hasn't been changed. So imagine now you have to get the entire vote, so you can't do any secret stuff or any kind of under the table stuff with your board of directors, because everyone in the company gets to vote on it. Talk about some transparency and building credibility. The second thing too is in the article of the charter, basically the Social Venture Charter, it states that it sets up how often. So you could say once every 10 years, 20% of profits of that year will be divided, or 30% or 50%, or whatever you want as a social venture, will be shared amongst its stakeholders. Stakeholders being the investors, the employees, being the partners, and so whatever. Those are potentially stakeholders. So imagine if you had a policy with your company that you actually give bonuses to your partners. Think about it. You do business with me. You do a good job with me. You know what? We're going to give you a bonus. We're going to give you some of your money back. Isn't that a crazy idea? Wouldn't you want to be a partner of a company like that? Sure you would. So, in part of the mandate, you would say that you have to reinvest basically the profits of each year into either an operations fund that can only be used for crisis and other things for the company, right? Can't be used for giving out. For actually creating new services and solutions for the constituency that you represent. So in our case, Help Japan Co. would be for Japanese survivors. Our whole point is helping Japan recover from any natural disaster, this being the big one. And third, it can be allocated to your constituency that your social venture is focused on. So some of the things that I envision that we will do with our profits for Help Japan Co., for example, is to set up zero interest, long-term loans for the survivors. To give an example, right now, the government, for someone who lost everything, is going to give $30,000. Well, let me tell you, $30,000 maybe buys you a car in Japan. These people have lost their houses, their businesses, freaking everything, their clothes on, everything on their back. I mean, they walked out with basically trash bags, with some stuff in a trash bag. They didn't have time to pack. They lost everything. $550,000 basically had everything just washed away. It's horrific. So no one is really stepping up to help them. So the only way is to make a shit ton of money by selling services solutions from the federal. That's the whole, from the federal market to Japan. Take the tax money, take the monies that we generate, and take those profits and give them, basically apply them to the survivors. Simple. That's a social venture for you. Now, some of the other things that are in the mandate, and the very important thing is that to partners and people that that invest or contribute. Okay, they can invest or contribute. Contribute just meaning you give money. Invest meaning you actually getting equity in it, in the company. There is and not only that, maybe even partners will have access to real-time financial documents. That's important. I mean, we're in a society now. I mean, we got Google Excel docs, that I can share. And there's no reason why Red Cross or any nonprofit out there cannot make their balance sheet public and real time. I mean, one of the things that we'll end up making, developing from Founders Corp is actually what I call the Social Venture platform. And the whole purpose will be the Social Venture platform will be an open source SME or CMS for managing your social venture. Kind of like what CapLink is for investors and stuff. We will have that. And it will come with accounting, free accounting. It will come with templates and all the different things that you need to set up your social venture. Because the other thing too, and eventually, once you start making money, and understand the major difference between a social venture as a nonprofit, and it's a major difference, is sustainability. The problem, and the biggest problem, the thing I've always hated about nonprofits is they're unsustainable. The moment either the crisis gets solved, right, which could happen through disruption or anything else, you lose your, it's just kind of like evolution, right? You lose you can't adapt, right? You lose your customers, you lose your constituents, you get, Kariki is a good example of watch Kariki fail unless they really change, is a good example. Nonprofits are white elephants in the sense that they're so rigid and stuck. They lack the nimbleness to make the necessary changes in a world that requires, lean change. So the social venture, think of the social venture as the lean nonprofit, right? The lean, it's the lean nonprofit, the new lean nonprofit model. When I talk about lean, I'm talking about air grease and the lean startup, iterating, listening to your customers, changing. So imagine if you're iterating to calls and changing to the needs of your base. I think really the only real need for nonprofits and their role in today's society is for how they're being used right now in the relief effort, getting food up and so on, and clothing and food. And if I donate stuff, I give, it'd be nice to give to a nonprofit. Okay, there may be I'm just thinking out loud here, you may be able to run that as also a social venture model where you actually get donations, some of the clothes you sell, some of the clothes you donate, use the profits to keep yourself sustainable, right? See, in a nonprofit, there's this thing called 30%. You can't have 30% of your income coming externally from unrelated sources, or you lose your status as a nonprofit. So the way around, again, a way around that is to be a social venture. You don't worry about that. It doesn't matter. You set up your charter. Now, at some point, you're going to want to have a nonprofit. Now, instead of thinking of having a 501c6, have a 501, either a 501 foundation, private foundation, as part of your charter. So now you've got exit funds. What you do with your exit funds, as I talked about before, you can allocate to an operating, or actually allocate it to a foundation, a private foundation, that ultimately basically takes your funds and uses it in creative ways to help this constituency. So eventually you can have enough. But again, it's kind of like, I look at a nonprofit as like, you kind of like, I have this idea for a nonprofit. They're all going to give to me. It's going to be great. I'm going to form this thing, and everyone's going to want to give to my nonprofit. Come on, that doesn't work that way. And it's better to say, hey, what's the problem? What solutions can I give to that problem? And then let's take the income from giving those solutions and divvy it up to where it needs to go and be sustainable. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk on the social venture Found Up that we're pioneering as part of Found Ups Corp. Found Ups is a platform, is a system for launching. I've developed this system from developing 16 years of struggling as an entrepreneur. And in the last year, I basically decided that I was going to actually formulate my ideas into something very concrete and to use it to help people launch their ideas. And so if you are someone with an idea for a business and you don't know where to start, let me just tell you, I'm available 24/7. And you can call me anytime. I'll pick up the phone and I will talk to you. I'm always available. I'm always available to any entrepreneur, to any nonprofit, any way that I can help. I sleep next to my phone. I nap, and if you want to try it, just call. Give me a call and you'll see. I think if you read my LinkedIn profile, you'll get that. Also, I think Jason should give me an endorsement, because basically he tried it today, woke me up at 4 in the morning. And I spent 2 hours talking to him about his open space movement. So check out openspacemovement.com or .org. And Jason's a great guy. He's a great working on. He's an idealist like I am, I think. And I was trying to give him my 2 cents. I don't know whether they sunk in or not. So. My name is Michael Trout. I am the CEO and chairman of a company called Found Ups Corp. And we're headquartered in Washington, D.C. with representative offices in Japan. I live in Japan. I love Japan. And I recently launched the social venture Found Up called Help Japan Co. that aims to bring federal contractors in to Japan to help with the recovery efforts. And we would be taking basically the profits that we make, or from matchmaking and creating the solutions and doing the solutions through our primes to helping those impacted by the disaster recover. Simple as that. Thank you.